As an adult, there's consequences.
Yeah.
If you go to the bar, or you go to a nightclub, or you go to a situation, and you push somebody the wrong way, it can end up terribly for you.
Yep.
If you don't realize that your actions have consequences, it is a detriment to you in the future. And the fact that we are taking that experience away from kids, where their actions do not have consequences, they're learning those hard lessons in the future. And sometimes those lessons are irreversible.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Budo Brothers podcast. You got Eric.
And Kyle.
I was reminiscing on all of the incredible instructors that I've been fortunate enough to have in my life. And it got me thinking, what makes a good martial arts instructor?
I think ego has a lot to do with it in my books.
Okay.
Right? Ego, when you have an egoic instructor and they make all of the teachings about themselves and how tough they are and how strong they are and how they can beat up everybody in the class, I generally find that's very hard to follow along with. The energy's wrong. You don't want to learn. It's not conducive to exploring your own body movements and mechanics. And you're stuck just watching this person almost show off.
Yeah. And I feel like there is a correlation between how much people know and the ability to teach it, obviously. I mean, to be an instructor, by definition, you need to have something to teach. But to your point on ego, some of the best teachers teach without it being egoic. The teachings come through them. They are the conduit of which the lessons come out of. And they're the conductors of the experience, which is not easy to do.
No.
And you can't. Can you teach someone to be a good teacher?
A lot of it probably is natural and instinctive.
Yeah.
I do find people learn really well through stories. And when a teacher tells the appropriate story and relates what they're teaching to an event or an experience, it's so much easier to follow along because you can be like, I understand. You can place yourself within the teaching and be like, I get it. One thing I really don't like is when a teacher doesn't give you very much time to play or practice the skills, right? In martial arts, sometimes you'll have a teacher who's like, then you'll do this, and then you'll do this, and then you'll demonstrate this, and then this. And they'll give you 30 seconds to mess around with the skill, and then they're back on teaching again. I really enjoy teachers that allow self-discovery through movement and let you sit in it and play with it a lot.
Yeah, let you get stuck so that you have the information to ask the right question. Hey, I'm not getting this lock, or this, I'm not finding the center of balance. Oh, it's because you need to take a step out. You know, when you find something that's not working, it arms you with the information to ask the right question to get you to where you want to be.
That's really true. And I've experienced teachers who are very structured and they have everything organized and it works. And I've also experienced teachers who are very free-flowing and go off the energy of the class and read the room. So to say that a teacher needs to be super organized and have their whole curriculum laid out down to the minutia versus somebody who's like, okay, what does everybody feel like doing today? I've had good experience with both. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes down to the style. Like, there's no doubt that there is a lot of value in progression in the lessons where you're starting off, all right, you know, the next couple weeks, we as a class are going to start focusing on this area, whatever that might be. And everybody's learning together and you're building it piece by piece in an organized and structured way. And then sometimes, you know, there's classes where you're right. It's whatever comes up. And then somebody did something which opened up an entirely new scenario or a new situation, and you fed off it. And a student asks, what if this happens? Great question. Let's explore it. And it's more of that freestyle discovery. I have experienced both, and both have been incredibly valued. So I think there is value in both styles.
Who would you say the most meticulous martial arts instructor you've experienced in your journey is? I want to see if it's the same as what I think.
Probably my first Taekwondo instructor as a kid.
Really?
Just very structured, very on, it was very disciplined, very, you're late, woof, like that. There was etiquette. It was strict, but it was also loving, and it was very structured.
I would say Mark Makita.
Oh yeah, nice, for sure. He's really structured.
When we got to train with him, he is literally a mad scientist. Like a almost genius level type of brain, how he approaches martial arts and the detail that he goes into things and the history that he collects. Like, for me, he was the most detail orientated martial arts instructor I've ever come across, and it was amazing learning from him. And on the opposite side of things, I would say the most free-flowing instructor I've had was Sensei Jay Creasy.
Yeah.
And from him, that free-flowingness allowed the classes to be very intimate and real and connect. And he started our mindset journey.
Very organic.
Yes.
And what I loved about his classes as well is, we would all be sweating our bags off, and near the end of the class, the last 30, 25 minutes, we would cool down, and all of a sudden whatever comes up, whatever metaphor of life that the technique we were working on can relate to our personal lives, and before you know it, everyone's mind is blown. That's I love the philosophy side of the teachings as well. I get so much out of those talks and the ancient wisdom that's been passed down through the arts. That's one of the most beautiful things to me about martial arts, is gleaning wisdom that is locked in the art, that was passed down and is a traceable lineage. Their teacher taught them, and now you lucky mofo get to learn from this 1,000-year-old lineage the lessons that have been taught to every member of the school, which I think is so cool.
And in the martial arts, it's a little bit different than, say, fitness or other professions, where most of the time the head martial artist is the entrepreneur that owns the place as well and is responsible for everything that happens within the space. It's very rare do you have a big giant facility that's a dojo where multiple martial artists train in, and then you go and you can train with different ones. That's not as common.
Yeah.
So one thing in the martial arts that I really value about teachers is their ability to make a community and environment that is comfortable to train in, that doesn't have a whole bunch of people who have egos, or people trying to ruin the lesson, or people try to throw in their 2 cents and just completely kill the energy of the space. They control and command the space, and it operates in the way that they've designed.
That's important.
Yeah.
Because how often have you been in classes where there's just too many cooks in the kitchen?
Oh my goodness.
Where, yes, and it's difficult because they have valid points to make, but they're not the head chef. They're not designing the menu here.
Yeah. And you can almost feel that they're trying to prove themselves as like, I know what I'm talking about, and you could do it this way also, where you just want to practice and learn. Also, too, the role of like a dojo enforcer and setting that up, like, you don't want some random person to come into the school, act all tough and challenge people and start getting into like real fights and causing damage to some of the younger belts in the class. So structuring your students and knowing their roles, like, some schools have a dojo cho, some have the person that's the enforcers.
Yep.
You know your role within a dojo or a community,
and you climb the ranks.
But that is like any good team sport as well too.
Right. Yeah.
You have your captain, You have your assistant captain. You have the person that's responsible for particular things. That's how come these team sports operate so well, is because everybody knows their role within the environment of the sport, right? Down to the person that knows that they're responsible for bringing water on the field.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it seems like it has to strike the right balance between the structure and the freedom for organic experiences to take place.
Now, do you think an instructor can be good at teaching high performance athletes and also just like general population people who are looking to work out and train and get a little bit of an experience in martial arts? Or do you think that they're two separate, different types of coaches or trainers or senseis?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is elite level instructors that, probably get bored teaching white belts. You know, they want to work with a complete assassin, you know, and it be their life's work, and that's the path they go on, right? Because I could see a lot of elite coaches probably, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I'll guarantee there's a lot of elite level coaches that don't really have time or care to want to teach beginners. They've just, that era of their journey's over, and they want to focus on that elite level of teaching.
And I also wonder too how many teachers want to teach the elite level, but if you were to look at the cash flow of most martial arts businesses, the income comes from teaching kids, right?
Yeah.
The kids program. That's usually the biggest program within the school, and these teachers have to be good with teaching youth. It's almost a requirement for owning a school or having somebody within your program that's good at that. Even when we went to the Jackson Wink Academy, they taught the high level people, and they had their specific times where they're training and learning, but they also had a general population program which paid the bills, which kept the lights on. And the nice thing about that place is they also had the incredible adaptive MMA program, which was for special needs. And so it's such an interesting dynamic of being a teacher. I think one of the hardest things to do is to be focused on being a teacher whilst at the same time trying to keep the lights on. It's two different energies. You need to do what's popular, trendy, in tune with the latest trend, or how to get more people in class, or this sales funnel in order to keep your business going. But at the same time, you know what works, and you know the system, pattern, and programming that people need. But it's hard work to do that. And most people don't like to put in the hard work to get the things that they want. So it's a constant battle between getting sales, making sure my dojo stays open, versus how the heck do I teach people the right way, the true way. Yeah.
And how much do you think pushing your students makes a teacher great or not? Because I've worked with some instructors like, dude, they're pushing too hard, and it's like it's almost not conducive. I've seen some students that can't handle that kind of pressure, and other students really excel. And then, how much is pushing the students a reflection of their efficacy?
I think the best in business are amazing at reading their student, because different people respond to different stimulus. Some people will respond amazingly to pressure, and you push them, and it produces results, and they're going places. Where I see that's with Ella. Like, Ella is our Budo Youth Fund athlete, and she operates way differently than the standard kid. She's in tournaments all the time. She's putting in work. She's constantly criticizing and critiquing her skills, but she has big ambitions.
Yes.
And she responds well to that being pushed.
Yep.
Whereas if you had a kid who loves to play PlayStation and is kind of doing martial arts on the side, maybe they don't need all of that. They just need to show up and be in the environment, and they're going to glean the skills and the tools that they want.
Yeah. And they have to grow too, though, right? And growth requires a certain amount of pressure. Otherwise, we're just going to be comfort-dwelling hermits, you know?
One thing I really like that I saw is with old school martial artists, and there's a few martial artists today that still stick to these principles, that draw a hard line. Like, these are the rules of the dojo, and if you break it, you're gone.
Yeah.
You're out. And kids aren't used to that.
No. And they generally respond well to it.
Yeah. When they have their boundaries,
Yes.
Yeah.
Discipline and structure. We saw it when we were teaching the kids program. Yeah. You know, the more we cracked the whip and had structure, but still allowed fun. You know, it doesn't mean you can't have fun, and it doesn't mean you can smile, but you have to be safe, and you can't do stupid things, and you can't put other kids at risk. And when there is a line that's drawn, everyone hears about it, and everyone's doing push-ups.
Right. Drawing lines is important. I'll never forget in my childhood, you know, around the high school era, there's this kid, we were out camping, and there was a hunter. He left this like deer foot. It was cut off and it was like sitting out. And this kid was going around poking everybody with this deer foot.
Okay.
And I was like, I drew a line. I was like, if you poke me with that dead deer foot, I'm going to grab your face and put it in that puddle over there. And he wasn't a very big kid. He's just like one of those little bratty guys. He comes up and I didn't move. He slowly tested me, and touched me with the deer foot, just like a millimeter. But I knew I set that line. So I grabbed the dude by the back of the neck, walked him over to that puddle, and stuck his face in. But guess what? He didn't bother anybody with that deer foot for the rest of the camping trip.
There's consequences.
As an adult, there's consequences.
Yeah.
If you go to the bar, or you go to a nightclub, or you go to a situation, and you push somebody the wrong way, it can end up terribly for you.
Yep.
If you don't realize that your actions have consequences, it is a detriment to you in the future. And the fact that we are taking that experience away from kids, where their actions do not have consequences, they're learning those hard lessons in the future. And sometimes those lessons are irreversible.
Big time. And have results that you can't turn back.
Yeah.
That's true. That's why martial arts needs to be in schools.
Absolutely. That is a goal that we wanted to push later in life. Budo Brothers Challenge.
Ooh. If you have a child and they have not tried martial arts, as a parent, the Budo Brothers Challenge is to suggest the possibility of them trying. Pick, and you know, at the age of beginning, you know, 5 to 7 to 10 years old, it really comes down to the instructor. We get asked every time, what's the best martial art to put my kid in? Really, for a kid who's never learned how to use their body in a way that has to do with martial arts, the style doesn't have as much to do with it as it does the instructor. Teaching the right things, having the right program, striking the right balance between structure and fluidity, and having a class that is conducive to learning, that's supportive yet challenging. All the right mix. Find the right instructor and suggest the option, because the child has to want to try it. They have to want to. A good hack, watch Karate Kid, or, you know, get them in the mood. Hey, you should try that. You should try karate. It works like a charm, I swear. And Karate Kid's making a comeback, by the way.
It already has came back.
Yeah, totally. Definitely. So that's the Budo Brothers Challenge. If you have a child, as a parent, suggest they try martial arts.
Love that. All right. Until next week.
Till next week.